Greetings. This is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct from Black Facts Headquarters Central with another installment of Doc Ock at noon and 9. Fine as wine, and it's summertime. You know it is. So we don't have to give you a quiz to remind you what needs to be done right about now. First and foremost, if you're watching on Facebook, give us a like. If you're watching on the tube, give us a thumbs up. Or maybe I should have done it like that. But either way, you're going to be a happy pup if you give us a thumbs up. That's all we need for us to keep on moving and grooving. And last but not least, make sure to let your friends, your family, your relatives, your enemies all know what they should be doing at 9 o'clock, because it's time to rock. It only takes us a little while to leave you with a smile on your face up in the place wherever you may happen to be. So, and it's all for free. Keep that in mind. This is all for free. Meanwhile, let's go ahead and do our proverb for tonight. Let's see what we got tonight. What do we have? What do we have? Here we go. It is no shame at all to work for money. Speaking of dollars, there we go. It is no shame at all to work for money. And let's see, where does that proverb come from? Oh, that looks like it's an Ashanti proverb. I believe it is, because it is. That is an Ashanti proverb. Meanwhile, let's switch to our book, and we're going to continue to read the tales of Abraham Hannibal and the Raiders of the Sands as he traverses the land, moving all through Ethiopia from Debarwa to Gondar. He's on the trail right now, beginning his journeys as a youth, seeing in Africa, in many African societies, in the traditional African way, the youth are trained up to take on adult responsibilities at a young age. Here, we think of that as being something unusual, even though oftentimes that ends up being the case. We don't think of it as the norm. So, as an example, when a salt dealer goes from Timbuktu out to the salt flats, he will take his son with him, and all of the men will ride on the camels. But the young boys will not ride on the camels. They will walk beside the camels, because they go at a pretty slow gait. They can usually keep up. They got a lot of energy. But while they're keeping up with the camels, they have some duties to perform. And one of those duties is to make tea. So now if you can imagine traversing the Sahara, where there are no trees, no bushes, no woods to go and get some twigs to make a fire, making a fire while the caravan is on the move. So the caravan never stops moving while the youngster will go and make the tea. Well, once he's done making the tea, he needs to deliver the tea like he's an Uber driver, okay? Except he's on foot on those burning sands, because you know those sands will be hot as concrete. Walking across those burning sands, there is no shade to protect you. So he runs across the sands, delivers the tea to the men in motion without the caravan ever stopping. And if he happens to get lost from the caravan and never returns, they chalk it up as Allahu Akbar. You know, so shall it be. It is what it is. He was what he was. We'll remember him fondly. So young people in Africa, in traditional societies, have to grow up quick, not just in Africa, but many places around the world. So we're Abraham is on that same train. He's on that same train. He's one of those types of youth. And so here we are, chapter 14, Dr. Ponset. So Abraham was taken to play with Prince Alim. There were two questions he had to ask him straight away. Where does your father keep the lions? Question number one. Oh, they're wandering around somewhere I'll take you to their house. Lions have their own house, got their own crib. You know, lions got to have a crib, right? Now let me see. What is the problem here? I got some kind of issue like I had yesterday. This doggone thing doesn't want to work right. It's supposed to stop doing that. Let's see if it'll stop now. So they looked at the house of the lions and watched the two huge lions wandering in and out of all the palaces as they pleased. Doggone right. Lions got the right of way all day long. Can't stop the lion. Oh, maybe this is my problem here. Let's try that. Now let's see if it'll work better. Hopefully. Let's see. All right. Now maybe it'll work this time. And they went and talked to them and rubbed their ears. They went to look at the house of the pigeons as well, where Abraham remembered his other question. Who is that white man in your father's court? Prince Alim laughed. Oh, that's our doctor, Dr. Ponset. He's a Frank from a place called France, but he lives in Egypt. He's a good doctor. Father and all of us were sick, so a messenger brought him from Cairo to make us well. And now we're all fine again. Okay, I see this thing's going to make me do this all over again. Excuse me for one moment here while I digress. Try to straighten this thing out. See if I can get it right. Now, let's see if it'll work this time. Now we're all fine again. He'll be going back to Egypt soon. For a month, Abraham had nothing to do but play. The first 2 weeks were blissful. There was the king's bath just outside the city, with a 2-story palace right in the middle of a big, shallow pool that was filled by a fast, clear stream. He and Alim went a few times and splashed and dunked each other and played at throwing and catching sticks across the water. Abraham began to wish that he hadn't been ordered to play with Alim. The young prince had a habit of whining if Abraham got a bit rough, though he was even rougher than Abraham was. Okay. Bit of a crybaby, in other words. One day, however, they made a most interesting discovery. They were making their way to the king's bath earlier than usual in the morning when they realized that Dr. Ponset was ahead of them, going the same way. He was carrying a big bag and wearing a great flowing Arab robe instead of his normal clothes, with his head tied up in a big cloth like an Indian trader. The two boys stopped and grabbed hold of each other. Do you think he's going to have a swim too? Whispered Abraham. Alim nodded, grinning. Maybe we should go away. But he didn't sound very convinced. Do you know something that's been bothering me? Carried on Abraham. Are white people like Dr. Ponset white all over? Or is it just the bits that show that are white? Interesting question. Well, now's our chance to find out, whispered Alim. The two boys crept through the trees after the comical figure in its turban and baggy robe. The doctor was still wearing his stiff, high-heeled shoes, and every now and then he would trip on the rough ground and mutter what sounded like curses in some foreign language. At last, he made it to the pool, which had a stream running into it and out of the other side, and went round to where the water flowed out of it. He opened his bag, took out an assortment of little bottles and boxes and a mirror and put them carefully at the edge of the pool. Then he took off his turban. Underneath was no fleecy white bush, but just a pale scalp with very, very short straw-colored hair. The boys, peeking from behind the bush, stared at each other. I knew that his white hair wasn't real, whispered Alim. He's taken it off and shown me his head before now. Now the doctor was kicking off his shoes, stripping off his stockings. At last the moment came, and he picked up the skirts of his robe and pulled it up over his head and off. He was naked and white from head to foot, as white as a peeled egg. If anything, his head and hands and neck were the darkest bits, reddened and leathery from the sun. The two boys clamped their hands over their mouths to stifle their giggles and rolled around silently on the ground behind their bush. There was a big splash. Dr. Poncet was in. The boys peered round again and watched the longest and most complicated performance of creaming, foaming, rinsing, gargling, singing, splashing, rubbing, and dunking. Then the doctor scraped at his cheeks with a kind of knife. Standing in the water with the mirror in front of him on the edge of the pool, the boys had never seen a man shave before and gazed in astonishment. At last he got out and dried himself with a cloth and started creaming himself with something else, singing all the while. He's going to be finished soon, whispered Abraham. What a shame. He hunted around him and found what he was looking for, a nice, smooth, round pebble. While Alim looked on puzzled, Abraham stood up and took careful aim at Dr. Poncet's shiny white backside. The pebble whizzed through the air and dented the soft flesh of its target. Dr. Poncet's song changed into a howl as his hand flew to his bruised backside. He started running naked and barefoot as he was towards the boys' hiding place. But Abraham and Alim didn't stay around. The doctor hobbled after them for a little while as they darted back towards Gondar, but soon gave up and went back, muttering, to get on with his dressing. The boys stopped for a minute when they were safely out of sight and earshot. What do you do that for? Panted Alim. I bet he recognizes. If you get me into trouble with my father, I'm going to tell them it was your fault, you idiot. Don't you call me an idiot, snapped Abraham furiously. You're just chicken. And you're a sneak. And he grabbed Prince Alim round the neck and wrestled him to the ground, thumping him hard in the chest. Alim gave as good as he got, but not for long. Soon he wriggled out from Abraham's grip and ran off home to the palace, whimpering. The days went by. There was plenty for Abraham to do in the royal compound, plenty to explore, right up to the roofs of the castles, to what they called balconies, where Abraham made himself feel sick by looking down such a distance to the ground. The boys heard no more of the incident at the king's bath, nor did they mention it to each other. One evening, Abraham climbed up to the top of one of the balconies and got a terrible shock. There was Dr. Poncet sitting in his normal fancy clothes and big white hair, looking at the sun sinking down towards the mountain tops. Abraham thought of sneaking down the stairs again, but it was too late. The white man had seen him. Greetings, Abraham, said Poncet in the language of Gondar, but that seemed to be all he could say. They stared at each other in silence. Abraham couldn't get out of his mind the picture of the naked doctor chasing after him and Alim, roaring in fury. Certainly he didn't look angry now. In fact, he looked quite amused. Abraham had a bright idea and asked, "Do you speak Arabic?" The doctor did indeed speak Arabic, and they were soon chatting. Alim says, you are going back to, Elim says you are going back to Cairo soon, said Abraham. Will you be going by camel? I am going further than Cairo, my boy, and not by camel, except for one small part of the journey. I am going all the way to my country, to France, to take letters from your king to mine. Tell me about your country. What is the king's name? He is called the Sun King because his power and his glory shine more brightly than the sun itself. He is the most magnificent ruler in all the world. Abraham began to wonder if all white people were windbags like his old friend Yanni the Greek and this doctor. But his true name is Louis, the 14th of that name, went on the Frank. Is his palace as fine as this? Oh, they cannot be compared. This palace compound could fit maybe 20 times into the chief palace of the Sun King. I can show you pictures when it is light again tomorrow. And the doctor told Abraham tales of the Sun King's palace with a hall of 100 mirrors, each as tall as a tree, of banquets lit by 10,000 candles, of gardens where stone images of men and animals spouted water high into the air, and trees were clipped into fantastical shapes, of wheeled carriages which you could climb inside, pulled by horses that galloped as fast as the wind, of fine ladies with dresses as wide as the whole balcony, and hair piled an arm's length high. So we're going to stop right there and pick up from there tomorrow. So you can see we have had a lot to share with you, a lot to read. We hope y'all are enjoying our reading as much as we are. This is our second time reading this book, Abraham Anabal and the Raiders of the Sands. Excellent, excellent, excellent book. Highly recommended by me, by moi, right over here. Yes, I am recommending that book because it does give a lot of insight into the Ethiopian culture, and it has some of the images that we've been showing in our slideshow are in the book. So it does have some nice illustrations in it, and it's kind of an easy reading book, you know, something for a fifth grader or a sixth grader to read, unless you got a very precocious child like my granddaughter who could read it when she was 5 or 6 years old. So if you got a child like that, you can have them read it too. There's not really anything in there that I can think of that's inappropriate for a 5 or a 6 year old. So it's fine. And it's 2 volumes. We're only going to read the first volume, I believe. But there is a second volume, Abraham Anabal and the Battle for the Throne. So it comes in 2 parts. The first part is in Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia, you know, East Africa. And then the second part is in further deeper into Europe or Eurasia. So that's all for tonight. For all you little children out there, you know what time it is. You know what you need to do. Take your little head and put it on your little pillow, on your little bed, and close those your eyes while you wait on that sun to rise. And when those sunbeams start beaming down on your eyes, you know that it's time for you to rise and shine, oh children of mine. So do what you need to do. Get that rest so when you wake up in the new day, you can be your level best and enjoy a full day of summertime, because the living is easy. These are probably the best days of your life. Enjoy it while you can. Meanwhile, for you adults, you know what we need you to do. Number 1, give us a like. Number 2, give us a thumbs up if you're watching this on YouTube. And of course, subscribe to the Tubular Black Facts channel. I've been seeing a few subscriptions every day coming in, but we still need more, and then some. So make sure to spread the word far and wide to your family, your friends, and your enemies too. Let everybody know and give everybody a clue. as to what they need to do. Don't just hog it all for yourself. Don't keep all the good stuff just for you. Meanwhile, let me give a shout out to Alfred. And oh, I see Tony Johnson over there. All right, how y'all doing this evening? And we're going to go ahead and go to our extra. It's time to go to the extra. Boom.